All right, let's get to some of the voting irregularities here, and I think we have Reg the Bandit to bring this up. We've talked about quite a bit in the past. We had Giuliani on, and we don't want to sound the alarm when things aren't confirmed or they're, for example, I've seen some conservatives say, well, maybe a couple hundred votes there, maybe it doesn't. No, we've numbered tens of thousands already that have been verified, and there are hundreds of thousands more votes that are potentially compromised. But some new stuff came out today from Pennsylvania. Do we have Reg the Bandit?
Yep.
All right, Reg the Bandit, are you there, sir?
Yeah. What would you like from me?
So right now, the first thing that came out is Pennsylvania. Explain to people, this is a statistician, William Briggs, and explain what it is that he analyzed, what he came out with, and then I'll be able to take it from there and kind of explain what those primary blips are.
So analyze the numbers from Pennsylvania, and it's also important what he didn't use. So a lot of people have been looking at Binford's Law when it comes to these voting totals. Now, you would probably assume if you looked at the first digit in the raw numbers from sets of data that were naturally occurring, you'd probably assume those leading digits, it would be 1 part of the time and 2 part of the time and 3 part of the time. That would be equal, right? That you'd have each leading digit be 11.1%. That's actually not the case. When you have naturally occurring data, the leading digit is typically smaller. So that's Binford's Law, that 1 occurs 30% of the time, 2 occurs, a little over 17%, and when you get to 9, it only occurs less than 5% of the time.
Okay.
Now, why that's important is because when people cook the books or when they make fake results, they tend to make the numbers evenly distributed, but that's not really how they randomly occur.
Right, and so, you guys can bring up the first chart as he talks about this from William Briggs, and the analysis.
And what Briggs was saying is, find that's a valid critique. You can go through these results and find, places where it seems to violate Binford's Law, and people have done that with election results. But he actually says it doesn't even have to be that widespread, right? Binford's Law would indicate like a sort of systematic cooking of the books. But he said there are 2 instances, right?
Well, I want to be clear about this for people who don't know. The entire state of Pennsylvania flipping for Biden. So let's be clear. Yeah. The entire state of Pennsylvania flipping for Biden can be attributed to 2 instances in reporting. 2. This is not including any of this is not even just including potentially dead people on voter rolls or any of that, or glitches like we've talked about in Michigan. We're just talking about from a data standpoint, the entire flip. 2 instances. And those instances, if I'm not mistaken, the first one is at 9 p.m. on election night. And Reg the Bandit is very smart with this, so I want to make sure I don't misspeak because I could easily be sued. 9 p.m. on election night, Trump lost almost 10,000 votes when ballots were subtracted from 3 different counties simultaneously. That we have on running totals 2-1 is the file here, right? 9 p.m., Donald Trump lost 10,000 votes when ballots were subtracted like that, right? In one instance, right, Reg the Bandit?
Yeah, that's correct. And Biden never had any subtracted in the reporting. I'm not sure of the reason for that. The supposition is that
I can guess.
Perhaps they made an error, right, and had to correct. But it is strange that you have 10,000 votes subtracted from Trump's total in one instance.
Right. And then the next morning, Biden, all of a sudden, he jumped 27,000 votes in 2 consecutive voting periods.
Yeah, exactly. So what you have there, you take 10,000 plus 27,000, and you've got 37,000.
Right.
Just from these 2 anomalous bumps in the reporting. 1 bump down for Trump, 1 bump up for Biden. Now, in this data set, Biden ended up winning or leading by a little over 34,000 votes, right? So that lead would be completely erased if these 2 anomalous things were indeed some sort of fraud or error. So that's what Briggs was pointing out. He's saying you don't need to have Binford's Law to necessarily say there's this cooking of the books across the board. That would indicate something much more systematic.
Right.
That would be, a lot more to cover up, right?
Right.
But if you just had these 2 little tweaks alone could flip a whole state. That's what's important to know.
If I understand correctly, Briggs is saying that we know what real randomness looks like.
Right.
And this looks like people trying to look random. Like people are they're trying to make it look spread out, whereas actual randomness looks much more grouped.
Yeah, and he's also just saying that even if someone is not systematically cooking the books across the board, it doesn't take much to flip a whole state, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to be. We don't have to analyze every single report.
Right.
Just these two would be enough to do it.
Just these two would be enough. Thank you so much, Reg the Bandit.
Wow. Yeah.
We appreciate it. You must go. Not only that, but again, this is not including the poll watchers.
No,
that we've talked about.
Right.
This is not
This is a different
including
issue.
Votes received too late.
allegations of all the votes that have been
Yep.
received too late.
Not even-
Allegations that there have been an obscene number of ballots. We don't know if this is true or not because no one was able to confirm. Where the only thing checked was Biden, and the
Yeah.
rest of it was empty,
Yeah.
which doesn't really statistically happen. This doesn't include the fact that a record number of mail-in ballots, despite them being unrequested, were accepted. At 30 times the rate
Yeah.
of all of the previous election, at many times the rate. If I'm not mistaken, I think more ballots were rejected, mail-in ballots in California in the Democratic primaries than across the United States.
Yeah.
So just this enough is enough to flip these two blips where all of a sudden 10,000 votes lost for Trump immediately across two counties, and the next morning 27,000 bump. That's 37,000 votes completely unaccounted for. This is just a statistical argument, not that poll watchers need to be there.
Right,
not
exactly.
that, okay, you know what, there are ballots that came in and the Supreme Court obviously hasn't. It's the law that they cannot come in after election. This is something else, which is, it needs to be, if anyone says this doesn't warrant investigation, I thought you were the party of the science. I'm just the party of science.
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you are the Biden campaign right now or the Biden supporter right now, shouldn't you say, well, we're so confident that our guy won? Of course, go look at whatever you want, right? Do a little thought experiment too. Place candidate A and candidate B on this, and not Donald Trump and not Joe Biden, and have all of these anomalies and say, it's weird that candidate A doesn't have any of these anomalies go against him and candidate B has all of them go against him.
Right.
Why? We need to look into this, right? You wouldn't care who they were, what side they were on. You'd be like, that looks odd. We have to look into that.
Yeah, and these are just the things that are publicly available less than a week out from the election.
That are less than a week
there's
out from the
going to be
election.
more.
There's going to be more. And listen, we've talked about this quite a bit. Obviously, you know that Donald Trump, they've this president, I want to make sure they've taken legal action in 6, am I not mistaken? Yeah, 6 contested states. And they're confident that when it all shakes out that they're going to win those states. There's a lot. We've talked about Detroit. We've talked about Wisconsin. We've talked about Pennsylvania. This is new in Pennsylvania, not to mention Arizona, not to mention Georgia.
Right.
So this is important to note. This is just all of a sudden these statistical anomalies, which we did not discuss with you. When you look at the streams, the last 3 streams that number well over 15 million plays, we never mentioned this once. This was newly discovered last night, this morning, and no one has investigated it.
Watch Good Morning Mug Club live every Monday through Thursday at 10:15 Eastern.